Hey guys, welcome back to Precal 12. We're going to get started with getting started on 2.4. So in your textbook, that's page 129. And the first question that they give you is just to find the non-permissible values and then the intercepts of each of these questions. And this one makes a little note right at the top. It says this section is supposed to be learning to use our brains instead of our calculators. So with that, we're going to have a look and see how much we can figure out just by using our brains. And then for this question, since it's just a warm-up, we'll use our calculators as well. And going forward, we're going to try to not use our calculators whenever possible and just use all those rules that we learned in the last couple sections. So the first thing to note is that non-permissible values in this case means what would make the denominator 0. So if I'm looking at this one, 2 times what is 0? 0. So x can't be 0. So I'm just going to write my handy dandy pen for the non-permissible values for this question, x cannot equal 0. That one is going to be a little bit more difficult because I'm going to have to figure out how to factor it. So we can see that there's no number in front of the x. So that means it's going to be a basic, simple, put the x's here and figure out what numbers are going to multiply to -3 and add to -2. Now I know you're sitting there going, oh, that's so easy. It's -3 and 1, right? So let's try it. X plus 1, x minus 3. They multiply to -3. They add to -2. Biggity bam, you're good. Now, you have to figure out what is going to make the whole thing 0, so let's look at the first set of brackets. X plus 1. What plus 1 equals 0? So for this one, x is going to have to not be -1. For this one, x cannot be +3 because +3 minus 3 would give me 0. So I'm trying to avoid that 0 denominator. So for my non-permissible values, what would make the denominator 0? For this one, it was x can't be 0. And for this one, we factored it and we figured out what values would fit in there to make it not 0. The other part of this question asks for the intercepts. Now, you might notice this is a difference of perfect squares, and that would help you. But we're just going to cheat right now, and we're going to use our handy-dandy calculator. So I'm going to turn it on, because that's important. And then I'm going to hit the y equals button, and I've already typed in here. I don't know if you can see that. We'll zoom. That I've got my numerator in brackets and my denominator in brackets with a division sign between. And then if I graph it, we'll zoom again. Whoops, sorry. You can see that my intercepts are -3 and 3 on the x-axis, and that there is not actually an intercept on the y-axis. Instead, there is an asymptote. The reason for that is because x can't be 0. To do this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just figuring out how to do this so you guys can see it. Let's see if we can do this. Hey! That kind of works-ish. So I'm going to start with bracket, x minus 2 close bracket, divided by bracket, x squared minus 2x minus 3 close bracket. That should do it, so I'm going to hit the... Whoa, what the heck? Okay, so that's a pretty funky looking one. But there we go, kind of ish. Sorry about that. Hopefully you guys have got your own calculator at home and you can look at this more clearly on there. But you can see that there's an asymptote running right along the y equals 0 line, which is because in our original formula we have x over x squared, and you would have learned last section that that's the case. We have y equals 0 asymptote when the numerator is a lower degree than the denominator. And then we've got a couple of other asymptotes at -1 and 3, because obviously there's no factoring taking them out, so they have to be vertical asymptotes. And for our intercepts, we would zoom in and use the second function calc buttons to find those exactly. Now, I'm not too concerned about that right now, because the point is that we are getting information off of graphs by using our trends and not necessarily using our calculators. Again, this is just a little warm-up exercise, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes